The map is the problem. Why we can't find our way in the online labor market. Hi, my name is Sarah Trumbull. I'm the founder and CEO of the Job Applicant Perspective, the first anonymous user reviews for job ads across the U.S. This is me reading a blog that I wrote a while back from my Substack and making it more visible to a wider group of people. I apologize. It's not quite photogenically there yet, but I'm a work in progress and I improve as I go. Recursive is my style. So this is actually a step forward, but yeah, this is a blog post on Substack. Also, it's going to be an audio podcast version too, and it'll be the video version to kind of make it broader sense of awareness of where we're at on this. I make these blog posts because of go-to-market awareness and help with the gaslighting. I think we have a profound issue of misunderstanding what the online labor market is. And I mean, to help with that, but also because, I have the first anonymous user reviews for job ads across the U.S. because I think a two-stakeholder market needs two stakeholders. And I really don't think Uber would work well either if it didn't have, rider reviews. Or Airbnb, think Uber without rider reviews, Airbnb without host feedback, and then really look at the job market and ask yourself, is the problem that no one wants to work anymore? Or we've built a job market that can't work, I'm just saying. I obviously have opinions here, but regardless, let me get to the blog post and you'll see what you think. And I hope I'll convince you to stop by. The map is the problem. Why we can't find our way in the online labor market when our assumptions not our tech need updating. Taking a step back, I'd like to take a step back and acknowledge how audacious my assessments are at these last few blog posts. It's true, I agree. But my work in these blogs and at the Job Applicant Perspective might be bold, but it's not revolution. It's about returning to what we once knew, a labor market built on mutual trust, reliable outcomes, not perfect ones. Before we went online and promised each other perfection instead of reliability. Up until around 2020, I held many of the mental models I have attempted to review in my writing. Deconstructing my own errors is what has made the system's flaws more visible. The mirror is an excellent teacher. And that is entirely true. I mentioned it previously in a blog, but I write these from experience too. Hemingway once said, "The world breaks everyone, and afterward many are strong at the broken places." This is me standing in one of those broken places, trying to nurture disconnection back into connection to revive the great economic garden that began dying 25 years ago, give or take, unbeknownst to its stewards. In my opinion, economic systems like democracies die in the dark. Naming what has gone unseen isn't blame. It helps repair harm. That fracture shows up clearly when you look at the numbers. When the market rewards noise. The online hiring market is in crisis. Roughly 27.4 million hidden workers remain underemployed by standard talent acquisition practices, according to Harvard Business School back in 2021. According to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics Job Openings Labor Turnover Survey, JOLTS, the hires to openings ratio has steadily deteriorated. In 2016, there were 0.91 hires for every opening, and compared to just 0.74 in 2025, the ratio collapsed as low as 0.56 in 2022. The sharpest divergence in the series, clear evidence that employers now post far more jobs to achieve the same hires. Yet over the same period, platform profits exploded. LinkedIn's talent solutions revenue more than tripled from $2 billion in 2015 to $7 billion in 2023. Indeed's HR tech revenue more than doubled, and LinkedIn overall quintupled its total revenue. In short, hiring outcomes stagnated while the platform monetization accelerated. The divergence is the crisis. Platforms profit from more postings, not per hire, not better matches. We have a global labor market for lemons. I do not understand. This is definitely a 911 economist. That's why I'm here. Platform incentives are the measurement gravity point, and it's what everything goes towards. Take the hidden workers article I referenced earlier. The Harvard Business School study identified 27.4 million Americans sidelined by standard talent acquisition practices. But the deeper question is, what are the systemic incentives? A platform's revenue is tied to activity. Job postings, applications, engagement. A candidate matched in one try is a commercial failure for a volume-driven model. Wouldn't this also be evidence of the harm? We've discovered that a glitch in algorithms or their use unnecessarily keeps 27.4 million Americans from paying rent and buying food for years in a market in a fashion that they can't opt out of and will not understand because no one tells them. We understand that this glitch is extremely profitable and aligns directly with platform incentives, and it's just accepted. If you treat job seekers not as failed employees, but as unprotected consumers, or worse, as profitable human energy inventory, the data across academia suddenly aligns. From hidden workers to ghost jobs, the pattern is clear. When platforms profit by treating time and effort as free inventory rather than customers to be successfully served, the system is incentivized to break down into a global labor market for lemons. I cannot overstress the lapse in judgment academically, economically, public policy-wise, journalistically. The lapse in judgment is colossal here. As long as noise is profitable without repercussions, platforms will not have an incentive to change. More fake postings is more wasted applications. More wasted applications is more churn, more clicks, more activity. More activity is more metrics to sell to investors. Who this is for? This isn't just for job seekers, it's for everyone inside the hiring ecosystem. Job seekers tired of ghost jobs, broken pipelines, and zero feedback. Recruiters blamed for platform-driven failures they cannot control. Employers and small and medium businesses overwhelmed by applicant noise, ghosting, and unreliable job boards. Economists and policymakers seeking ground-level insights that match lived experiences. Investors and innovators hunting for the next inflection point in a trillion-dollar broken market. It's a global labor market for lemons, my God. Remaking the roadmap of the labor market will help all of us finally succeed. It was never you. Job seekers, this is about healing here. Job seekers, the story you hear, you're failing because you're unprofessional, unskilled, or entitled. Reality, you're trapped in a system flooded with ghost jobs, ATS black boxes, and fake postings engineered to maximize engagement, not outcomes. Verdict, it was never you. You are far and away the victims of this situation, but nothing changes when nothing changes. And all actors in this situation, including you, need to shift behavior for this to heal. You have to have agency, guys. You have to start reporting your job search information. I encourage my website, but other places too. We have to take agency. Recruiters and talent platform actors, the story you heard, you're failing because you can't source good talent. Reality, recruiters are patient zero, working without feedback loops or transparent data, blamed for mismatches they cannot control. Talent professionals are drowning in day-to-day tasks, barely keeping their heads above water. Of course, they can't step back to see the systemic flaws. Are people sometimes actively ghosting and underreporting harm? Of course they are. But also, is anyone putting on any pressure on them to change? No. What would any of us do in this case? Verdict, it was never you. You inherited models of how to look at this labor market that you didn't invent. But just like job seekers, you do need to update them. Employers, the story you hear, you're failing because candidates are lazy or unreliable. Maybe you're writing job posts wrong, or you need some training or new tech. Reality, employers were sold platform designed to optimize engagement, not matching. More applicants equals more noise, not better hires. Just like recruiters, you're also moving occasionally less than heroically, using a market itself as a level of brand advertising. But just the same as talent platform actors being less than considerate, every piece of your world is organized to make you feel like that's normal and not overly impactful. The verdict, you didn't cause the chaos. You also inherited a mental model of hiring that requires updating. Until the owners of the labor market system, though, act like this market is the two-sided market that it is, they will continue to shoot themselves in the foot. If Amazon and eBay wouldn't post fake shoes from sellers while complaining about buyer shortages, we cannot have stats about 3 out of 10 employers admitting to posting jobs they don't intend to fill from Resume Builder while simultaneously complaining of resume spam and talent shortages. That's not how that works. Economists and investors and policymakers, the story you tell yourself. The system isn't broken, it's friction. More innovation will fix it. Reality? For decades, the economic theories have gained the most traction in tech circles, modeled labor markets with simplistic, frictionless transparency, and the lived experience of job seekers is irrelevant noise. Platforms then build billion-dollar systems atop these flawed premises, optimizing for metrics these models valued, like volume and velocity, while ignoring the human realities that a market actually functions, that make a market actually function. Verdict, it was never you either, but the inherent lens is creating downstream chaos. Just like the others, we have to adapt our mental model to make hiring work in the internet age. This is a market for lemons. My God, it is. Creating regulatory systems equivalent to the SEC or folding the labor market under the SEC, like the financial security market that it represents for the U.S. labor force, 160 million people, Americans, is a step. It may not have needed that when the newspaper was the platform, and that's okay. But for better or worse, the newspaper isn't the platform now. And we need to reckon with how that affects engagement. There's no version of reality where online platforms are neutral. There just isn't. They benefit when the users do not find the outcomes that they seek. And that's a problem for any functioning economy. The general public, the story we tell ourselves, job seekers just aren't trying hard enough. Public policy will fix it. Employers need to improve. Reality, widespread disengagement from the sustained isolationist trauma of millions in the modern job market is part of why policymakers and journalists don't investigate harder. That disengagement hurts everyone. Your daycare closes because they can't afford to hire teachers as ghost jobs skyrocket. Your favorite local coffee shop closes down for the same reason and a big box store opens you have to drive to. Your tax base erodes, evictions rise in your neighborhood, trusting someone else in charge to solve a crisis while signaling that you won't hold them accountable if they don't. That's not neutrality. It's a betrayal of the basic concept of social community. Verdict, you aren't at fault either. You didn't move the labor market online and cause the situation, but by ignoring the honestly expressed needs of friends, families, and neighbors, we make it easier for those in power to ignore them too. This isn't villainy, it's a deeper question. Why do we trust the voices of distant strangers we have never met over the people we know and love? What is their incentive to mislead? Their capacity to not know? And what is our loved ones' capacity to tell the truth? The instinct to trust the words of the powerful over the embodied experience of our friends and neighbors can be a conditioned instinct. We have to start questioning it. The blind spot. Economic models disregarding human nature. More than this, we have to start engaging with the human nature of this story of online engagement for human relationships and its direct economic consequences. Economists model labor as a commodity, but the online labor market has evolved to treat the actors, the job seekers, as the commodities. The model's assumptions of perfect information and frictionless exchange are not only false, but platforms actively create information asymmetry and friction to maximize their own profit. Human relationships are a power dynamic rooted in culture and history. The emotional infrastructure is also a part of that economic equation. A job is not a widget you swap for a wage. It is identity, dignity, and survival. It's access to being a real American as the working class knows it. Applying for work isn't just an economic decision. It's an act of vulnerability and self-presentation. When the feedback you are asked to deliver isn't, I didn't find the paint color I wanted, or the shoes were too small, but I'm not lovable, dating markets, or I'm not worthy, jobs. The feedback loops in, and of themselves will be less likely to be useful even when they're endorsed. It's not that we don't move in this direction and start engaging like this. It's more that we also acknowledge without active eyes on the prize, this is not a thing that gets better. It's not a thing that gets better without your overt endorsement to work against such active moments that are coming against it. We need to keep nurturing it, lest we even get a trust ecosystem that looks functional in charts and reports, but feels incoherent in real life. Markets built on flawed assumptions that are never questioned cannot stabilize because they literally can't see themselves clearly. And that's where we are today. Platforms monetize opacity, policymakers dig and cling to myths, economists model a world that doesn't exist, and human beings are paying the price. And that's why the job applicant perspective exists and why we matter, because we cannot repair a system if everyone inside it sees only their lane. And economists are driving blind without ground level feedback. As a user review system for job ads across the US, TJAB adds a missing visibility. Economists get new data about the human experience missing from traditional models. Employers finally see where the process breakdown happens. Recruiters get feedback that's diagnostic, not punitive. And job seekers reclaim agency through transparency. You are consumers, unprotected consumers in a market. Your presence drives billions in profits. You absolutely deserve to give feedback on what that entails. TJAP functions like Yelp in a world of professionally mandated fine dining with no health department, no FDA. It doesn't create villains, it reveals design flaws, and it gives everyone a chance to make informed choices that let the market self-correct. We highlight good actors from the noise and clear the shelves of this national library without a librarian, because the most natural librarian in the world is the users that don't have time for nonsense. And that's why reputation always works. Closing thought. For 100 years, we've been driving in the same road, assuming someone else checked the map. But the terrain has changed. Platforms now shape incentives more than employers or candidates do. Feedback loops are broken by design, and entitlement to comfort masquerades as professionalism across the job market, hiding systemic failure. This isn't about assigning guilt. It's about finally seeing the whole picture and realizing that economists, employers, recruiters, and job seekers are all reacting logically to an outdated script. The world became a snowstorm in the internet age. The solution in this case isn't calling corporate office for directions like all other online marketplaces have discovered. It's asking for advice from people on the roads. If we want better outcomes, we don't need better drivers. We need a better map. Thank you.